Oh, what's in the box? Inside this box is something that is new to Stampin' Up, but every scrapbooker needs. Let's have a look. It comes wrapped in this beautiful sturdy box for safe transportation, but the box is also really useful if you are wanting to gift the album to someone else. Oh, I gave it away. It's an album. So this particular one has the D-ring album in it. You see it comes cling wrapped, and it has a packaging to make sure that it sits up level with the level of the spine. And as I said, you can store it in the box as you're working on the album. So great if you're going to retreats and things like that, and you don't want to get it marked or whatever. But this is also the perfect box if you are wrapping it to give it away once it's made, or needing to post a completed album. So let's have a look at the two styles of albums that are on offer. Stampin' Up is now selling a D-ring and a postbound album for our scrapbookers to enjoy. Both come in black. It's a classic timeless colour, and it's one of the most popular colours for album makers to use. Depending on how well received these are, more colours may come in the future. So a D-ring album works as the name suggests. It has rings that are shaped like the letter D, and it's a bit like the lever arch files. A nice textured liner here. The cover is a vinyl, but it's with a slight texture to it. Easy to keep clean. This is comes in the packing just to stop marks from the rings getting on here. So while I'm working with the album, I just kind of keep that on as long as it wants to stay there. Opening and closing these, I usually pull on the center ring rather than pulling on just the top or the bottom. If you do it just on the top or just on the bottom, you can damage the closure, but I find by doing it from the middle, there's equal pressure on the top and the bottom ones. It's as easy as that, and then you can add pages in and out of this album along the way, okay? You'll see that I've got quite a number of protectors in this album. Most of these pages in here, this is a display book that I'm using for our papers. So most of my protectors in this particular album only have 2 sheets of paper in them. Once you're using it for your scrapbooking and you've got pages with photos, maybe some bling, maybe a little bit of foam on some of the elements, you will fit fewer. As a general rule, in either type of album that I use, I would stick to between 30 and 40 at the most page protectors in there. Our protectors come in packs of 25, so, 1.5 packs is more than enough for an album. You don't want to overload them because that can cause stress on here. The main way I use a D-ring is as a holding bay. It's a work in progress album for me. And so the reason I like that is that I can swap pages around really easily within the album. You'll see that as I'm using it as a work in progress, I actually put both of my pages of my layout back to back in one sleeve, and that makes it really easy. If I decide that that one no longer needs to go there, it either needs to come out of this album and go in its forever album home, or I need to change around the order. That's really easy for me to do that, and I do this even once the photos and the story are on the pages, when it's truly my work in progress. Now when I'm closing, I will push on the top and the bottom at the same time. Again, I've just found that that helps to make sure that these closures stay true and aligned. And then the back just has the logo on it, and it's nice and firm. So the pros for a D-ring are definitely really easy to get your pages in and out move them around. All of the pages will lie flat because there's no binding that might hold them and curve them up, okay? The cons for me are that I have a really big gap between the two pages. So I will often design my pages that they join together in the middle, and these gaps may not always work. The other con is that it's a very wide album. So these protectors are 13 inches or about 33 centimetres. And then I've got all of this extra space over here. So these ones are best viewed on a flat surface, okay? If you are constantly just using them on your lap and things like that, you can cause them to go out of shape and things along the way. The other pro for these is if it's an album that young children are going to look through regularly, these are really, really easy for them to turn the pages. So, you know, I use D-rings for that. I have a 2-year-old and a 4-year-old grandchild, and the D-rings are great for the pages I've made about themselves. They look through them all the time, and they can kind of pick them up like this and get a bit rough with them, and they're just fine and dandy. So that is the D-ring. Now let me tell you about the postbound. The Stampin' Up postbound albums come in their own transportation box. It's like a pizza box, and they're cling wrapped, but I've opened mine up. This is the spine cover, so it comes nice and flat, and I leave that off until my album is completed, and then it slips onto the back of it. The reason I leave it flat is if I want to label the back of it. So if you own a Cricut machine or a die cutting machine, and you've got vinyl that you want to cut a title and make it interesting like the spine of a book, you can totally put that on. So by keeping it nice and flat, that's going to give the best results when you label it. The album has some packaging inside it to keep them separated. Don't throw this away until you've taken out the posts. This forms the section of the album that holds the pages on, okay? So you will find that the top screws off like this. You have a post that is 1.5 inches long, so it will hold lots of pages. All right, so organising the posts, we're going to take one washer and pop it onto the post. Then you open up the little fold, push it through, and the washer will provide a buffer between the paper and the post, and then the magnets will hold that closed, okay? So I'm working from the front because the bit that screws on is the same, like it's flat like the other one, so it doesn't matter whether you start with your pages at the back or the front. I just kind of like working this way. And then you simply take your completed pages. Now, this isn't where these pages are all going to end up. It's just for demonstration. So I've got my two layouts back to back, but imagine these were two different layouts, and you simply pop those on. And then the next one, and the next one. I do it one page at a time because it's really easy if you're trying to put like 4 or 5 pages over at a time. The plastic is very slippery, and you can accidentally miss getting a page in, and I've done that before, and I get to the end of the album and it's like, oh no, I messed up on the first one. Now, when you get to this point, so I've got 5 layouts on there. In the postbound albums, I like to use what is called a spine expander. Now, depending on how much I have on my layouts, I don't tend to put a lot of thick dimension on my layouts, but I do quite like to use flip flaps which adds layering, and I will often add some foam tape onto my layouts. Now what that means is that the gap between the pages is slightly raised. So you see here, these have got a bit of dimension. It's only a couple of millimeters, but if all of my pages have that, then I run the risk of my albums looking like what we call alligators. Let me show you what that looks like. So this is an album that I have overfilled for the purposes of demonstration, all right? In this one, you'll see that at the spine, the pages are bunched together. They've filled the 1.5 inches of the post. But because I have lots of little half pages, I've got several that have extra dimensions on them and several with flip flaps. By the time we get to the outside, it's wider here than here. So one of the nice things to do is to have fewer pages in it and use your spine expanders more frequently between the protectors. That's why we get 10 spine expanders in a pack. So if we're trying to get 30 to 35 protectors in a book, we can literally have one of these between every 4th protector. Now, if you don't use flip flaps and you never use foam tape on your pages, you won't need as many. So just have a look at the albums you've got and make a decision on that. Maybe put one together, have a little look at it, and you will know. But I can highly recommend these as an extra. So the way you put them on is they come flat, you fold them in half, you just pop them over, and then you keep building. And then whether it's 4 or 5 you've decided to use, you just keep layering it up. And that then, when the album is closed, will mean that your spine is the same height as the outside. Okay? Now, once I've got this completely filled up, I will pop the posts through the hole at the back of the album, pop on a washer, and then this just finger tightens. Okay, now if this is full, that will come up to there and the magnetic strip will hold it closed. Okay, and then you will see that you've got the 2 openings on either side, the front and the back. Decorate this and then bend it and slide it into there so that what you're seeing on the shelf is the spine cover. Alrighty, now let's just talk about the pros and cons of using this style of album. Well, I'll just pop that on there. Okay, so as you can see, your pages really need to fill the post. So if you are only doing a small album, it's only going to have, say, 20 layouts in it, you might be better off with a D-ring because it's less obvious that there's a gap. Or you might just stack a few more spine expanders to fill the space. I do like these ones because the pages meet in the middle. So you've only got a little bit of space. Once the album's full, there's only a little gap between the left and the right hand pages. They do lie flat as well. And the other thing that I like about them is that when they're open, remember the D-ring one went right out to here on either side. With these ones, there's less. It's a more rigid album, so this one copes better with being held on your lap. One of the drawbacks is there's a lot more involved in adding and swapping around pages within it. It's not to say it's super hard because the protectors are open at the top. And so you can, if you need to swap them, you can just pull out the pages. So you might preload it with your 30 or 35 protectors and just add in your pages as you go. But I tend to make this the last point of the album making process. Work in my D-rings while the album's in progress. When I've finished all of my layouts, then put them together in a postbound, and that's what goes on my shelf to be the books that the family enjoys. I hope that's been helpful. I do think that these are nice quality, and certainly, similar to other ones that I have used in the past. I think the rounded corners are really well finished. As always, if you're dragging this on and off the shelf frequently, on the base there could be a bit of friction, a bit of wear and tear. So, as you would treat any vinyl product, you just treat it with care and it will last you for some time. I have vinyl ones that have been on my shelf for 10 years with being pulled on and off for me to show to people that are perfectly okay. So I hope that's helped you with the run through. All of these products are available on my website, and if you are watching this at the beginning of July in 2025, I have a little deal for you that you can see in the comments. Bye for now.